Once a year, the world's best go west in search of sunshine, scenery, and victory. Oakland's Katie Hall had a breakout performance here in 2017.
Katie Hall gets the stage. The clock starts now. She'll be in yellow.
But fell just short of the ultimate goal.
I don't want to lose this by 1 second again.
Former champion Megan Gagne knows how to win on these roads.
This is my home race. I don't get to do too many world tours in America. This is the only one.
Fellow Californian Corinne Rivera has endured a challenging 2018, but victory here could be the cure to what ails her.
It's a great feeling, and it doesn't happen often, and it's something to really cherish.
3 California ladies race on home turf while hosting cycling's elite. This is the Amgen Tour of California women's race, empowered with SRAM. Hello and welcome to Sacramento for the final day of racing at the Amgen Tour of California women's race empowered with SRAM. And we stand here in the shadow of the state capitol for the final day of racing, awaiting to see who will arrive here on the final day of racing, which we do expect to be a big bunch sprint. I'm joined here by Laura Winter. Now, Laura, how important has it been to have a World Tour race, as this race is now categorized, here in the United States?
It's the only World Tour race actually here in America, and it symbolises the globalisation of women's cycling, and it's so important for the domestic American teams here who get to race against some of the European riders who race week in, week out with each other on European soil. It gives them a chance to just show their mettle, show what they're about on the roads that are very different to Europe. It's a whole different brand of racing out here, and the peloton are truly embracing it.
And for Katie Hall, let's not forget, who rides for the United Healthcare, a little bit of redemption, because last year on this exact finishing line, she lost the overall lead by a single second on the final day.
Brutal, wasn't it? Absolutely brutal. But Katie Hall now has a chance for redemption, as you said, on the roads of California, of course, her home state. This is a race that means so much to her, and she'll be going in with a fair bit of pressure. But of course, we also have the sprinters, 2 days this year, purely for those sprinters. Corinne Rivera yet to pick up a win this season, so she'll be gunning for that as well. But she's got the likes of Nettie Edmondson and the Ryan sisters for company as well, Kendall and Alexis. So the sprints are going to be interesting.
It's going to be fast and furious on the streets of Sacramento here this afternoon, and we will expect it maybe to go down to a bunch sprint. But first of all, let's just have a look at the overall race route.
Stage 1 looks like this, starting and finishing in Elk Grove, 124 kilometres, pan flat, and should end in a bunch sprint.
Well, it should be. It is a very flat course as the riders then move inland a bit to face up to what is going to be the queen of stages around South Lake Tahoe, but it's all very much about the nasty climb at the end before heading back down to downtown Sacramento.
70-kilometre Criterium race. There is the circuit in Sacramento, finishing again in a bunch sprint.
Yes, well, 2 massive big favourites on the start line, Katie Hall and Megan Gagne, and we actually caught up with them before the start to get their feelings on this year's event.
This is my home race. I would really like to win it 1 second last year or not. Like, this is just one of my favorite races of the calendar, and I'm here and ready to fight for the win.
You can never have too much confidence. You can never underestimate your competition and treat your competition with respect. So, yeah, nervous going into the week, but today I just need to kind of save my bullets for stage 2 where the GC will really shake up.
Well, those are 2 favourites for the overall victory, but I think on the opening day of the race, the victory more likely could go to one of the American sprinters.
It's certainly a day for the sprinters here. Corinne Rivera, of course, looking for her first win of 2018. As we look now at the course, Elk Grove start and finish with 1 intermediate sprint as well. That's in Clarksburg.
Yes, well, it's pan flat, I have to say. You couldn't get flatter than this. If it was a pancake, the syrup wouldn't even go off the edges, and it should certainly be a brilliant day for the sprinters. Going out initially in a southwesterly direction, coming back up towards the finishing line, and it is a perfect finish for the straight. It's just 1 cut turn at around about 1.2 kilometres to go.
Corinne Rivera, one of the big names to watch out for, but also you've got to look for the likes of Nettie Edmondson, Alexis Ryan, Arlena Sierra as well. As we look now at the profile one more time, pan flat and that sprint again in Clarksburg.
Let's go down to Kristen Armstrong, 3 times Olympic gold medalist, to take us through the day.
Stage 1 is going to be in Elk Grove. It's going to start in Elk Grove. It's going to finish in Elk Grove. It is a flatter stage. I think some of the factors that can be
out there are winds can pick up throughout the day. There could be breakaways, because you have to remember, teams have come here as a Women's World Tour race to win. So some teams are very stacked with sprinters and some teams may not be. Some teams are focused on GC, which may allow a breakaway to happen. However, I think the strongest teams here have a sprinter defend. So expect on stage 1, a sprint finish.
All 15 teams now lining up on the starting line at 25 degrees Celsius, or about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. 12 miles an hour the wind, coming from a southwesterly direction. And as they go out, they'll just get a little bit of a tester of how this race is going to unfold. There is hardly a breath of wind in the air at the moment, because on the flat stages, sometimes the wind can be the rider's greatest enemy.
And you can see here at the back of the bunch, we've got some riders just rolling along. The Schneider sisters there in conversation. There'll be 2 more sprinters to watch out for today. As already from the gun, kilometre 0, we can see attacks flying from the front. And that is Hagens Berman Supermint Pro Cycling, who are really putting in some of the early attacks. A very aggressive team indeed. As we see Megan Garnier, one of the race favourites, now riding along.
Yes, that's Megan Garnier closer to us, wearing number 31, a winner of this event back in 2016. Picking their way carefully over this rather rickety but very picturesque little bridge as they zigzag up and down the Sacramento River.
The wind could play a factor, and certainly down the finishing straight as well. If it is a headwind, the sprinters have got to be careful. Looks like we have one of our first breakaways of the day as well. Whitney Allison, again Hagens Berman Supermint Pro Cycling rider, really putting in the hard yards here, joined by Lisa Morzenti of B Pink.
Well, just looking back, and you look at the main field stretched across the road like that, that's an indication they're going to allow these 2 riders to give themselves a little bit of freedom. Initially, they got up to around about 30 seconds, but if they continue to collaborate like this, their advantage could start to stretch up to the 1-minute margin. Now, that could be important because at Clarksburg, there is an intermediate sprint with time bonuses available. 3, 2, and 1 second time bonus for the first 3 riders to cross the line.
And here is that intermediate sprint, and it's 20-year-old Morzenti, the Italian rider who takes maximum points. Whitney Allison finishing second there, 2 points. And from the bunch, Tanya Erath of Canyon SRAM, of course, winner of the Zwift Academy by virtue of that winning a place on the team, takes the points.
Well, we're now down to 1 lone leader at the front of this race, and this is the rider from Hagens Berman Supermint, Whitney Allison. She's decided to go it alone. She's still holding on to an advantage of approximately 40 seconds over the main field. And these bridges, they are very rickety if you're on a bike. You've got to be so careful riding across them. Fortunately, it's extremely dry today. As I said earlier, the weather is perfect for a bike race, and it looks as if the breakaway currently, as we start to charge back into town, is pretty much all over bar the shouting.
A pretty impressive ride there from Allison. She was 7th at the Cascade Cycling Classic recently, 30 years old and one of the key riders in the Hagens Berman Supermint squad. And we can expect to see them, I think, really making their moves throughout the course of the race. They're an aggressive team. They'll want the exposure, and they'll also want to get involved in all the action at the front of the race.
Well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, it'll be all eyes down for the sprint to the line.
To me, this younger generation, especially in their 20s, even in their teens, they are hungry for information. They're probably one of the most competitive generations that I've been around.
If I, break a world record, I have to be the again the next time. I'm not going to be happy if I don't, That goes for anything in my life.
We are both very competitive. We both have the same coach, Kristen Armstrong, and she's also very competitive. So we all really, we like that rivalry. We have fun with it. We try to beat each other every chance we can, but it's fun. At the end, we're always hugging at the finish line.
At Gila, they were going up against each other. They went 1-2 a couple times. And I text Emma and I said, hey, great ride today. And this is the day Emma got second. And Emma responds to me with, yeah, bittersweet. So there's a competitive drive. And there's been times when Chloe has been talking with me and she's like, I don't know about this. Emma's getting too good. And she's like, how does it feel if I don't want to be selfish or anything, but what if I just told you I want you for myself?
Yes, we're rivals, but right after the race is over, except when she wins, for the most part, we're good friends again.
I love to see riders within the peloton have such a friendship, but still be competitors when they're on the bike.
We're now lining up at about 3 kilometers to go, and in fact when I spoke to Chloe Dygert before the start this morning, she said she wasn't sprinting for her own account today. In fact, what she was doing was trying to set up the sprint for Jennifer Valenti, who's had a very good season so far this year. Both of those riders on the 2020 team.
Jennifer Valenti then one of the names to watch out for, and with a rider like Chloe Dygert pulling her, that is going to be a force indeed to be reckoned with. We can see Canyon SRAM here, of course, riding in the sprint for Alexis Ryan, just loitering towards the back of the peloton and really just trying to suss things out. They don't want to hit the front too early. We've got a headwind down the finishing straight, and the last thing riders want to do is put their sprinters in the wind too soon.
That is the problem with a finish like this, because it's a long sweeping bend from around 1.2 kilometers from the finishing line. There is no twists and bends, and you can actually see the finishing banner from a long way out, and some riders, due to inexperience, sometimes launch the sprint just a little bit too early. The important thing as well, we'll be looking for the black and white jerseys of Team Sunweb. They will be trying to look after their sprint, Corinne Rivera, who was the revelation on the international circuit last year. 2 kilometers to go, and as if on cue, I could just spot the black and white jerseys coming to the front of the main field, trying to set this up for Rivera.
And next to them you saw the black and orange of Wiggle High Five. They're riding for Nettie Edmondson, Commonwealth Games champion and bronze medalist on the track. So we know she's got speed, but has she got the endurance in a stage race like this? We'll have to wait and see. Also expect to see the orange jersey of rally cycling, of course, Emma White, a real force to be reckoned with, a recent stage winner at Tour of the Healer, and will be interesting to see how she gets on in this sprint today.
Perfect lead out. This is the final bend now, and we really are starting to wind ourselves up for the finishing line. Yes, it's all about getting it right down on the finish. It's nice to see that the main field is actually stretched out quite into a long line like this, because it keeps it nice and safe in the peloton. But they're all waiting for the moment to open up the sprint. There's the Maxis 1 kilometer to go banner, just 1,000 meters left in this race. You can see the orange jerseys of the rally squad over on the right hand side. Bunching up in the middle there, the blue jerseys of Team United Healthcare. They're not too worried about that. What they're worried about is making sure they keep Katie Hall nice and safe at the front of the main field. Let's not forget, the first rider to come across the line will get the first yellow jersey of the Amgen Tour.
And a crash it looked like there in the back of the field as Canyon SRAM continued to drive the pace on the front. Team Sunweb now taking it up. Already though, Corinne Rivera is second wheel. She's going to be unleashed too soon, it looks like.
She's very much isolated there in second position, Corinne Rivera. They have actually brought a young team, Team Sunweb, here to look after the interests of Corinne Rivera. Yeah, there is the crash. I didn't actually see it, but I think I heard it over on the right-hand side. That actually looks like Chloe Dygert, who's gone down. Now, she was supposed to be instrumental in setting up the sprint for her teammate. Well, let's hope she's okay. She's down there. The race medical doctors will be up and looking after her as quickly as possible. The sprint now is starting to be unleashed. Over on the right-hand side, you can see the rider in orange from Rally coming up the left-hand side in the black and white jersey. That is Corinne Rivera, but she has gone too soon. In fact, she's way out of it. Coming around the outside now, you can start to see a rider from Tibco. This is Kendall Ryan trying to come through. She's been so dominant on the season last year. This year, it's been a very quiet season for her. She gets the first victory, the 10-second time bonus, and she will be the first overall leader of this year's Amgen Tour of California.
And the Tibco SVB rider looks absolutely delighted. Let's take one more look at that and how exactly she managed it. She came round Emma White using that sprinter as almost a lead out for herself. She had her sister, Alexis Ryan, her younger sister there just next to her, but she was the one to cross the line first. And look how happy she is. The first UCI Women's World Tour podium for her, and indeed for her team Tibco SVB as well. Look at the emotion on her face. Incredible.
Well, it certainly was timed to perfection, and that's what it's like when you come to a long finishing straight like this. Well, I don't think you needed to interpret that joy at all, did you?
No, she is absolutely thrilled, and I think she looks pretty emotional as well. This is a landmark day for her.
Well, it certainly is. They take the overall lead, Team Tibco there, with 4 seconds advantage over Emma White, 6 seconds over Annette Edmondson. Those are all the time bonuses. And looking further down, Alexis Ryan in 4th. Some of our pre-race favourites, you can see Katie Hall given the same time as the main field, Megan Garnier there too. But let's go down to the winner's podium to listen to what the winner had to say about her first big stage victory.
I'm joined now by a very emotional Kendall Ryan of Team Tibco. Tears are flowing here, Kendall. Can you sum up what this means for you, a World Tour stage win?
It means everything. I've been waiting for a win for a while this year, and I'm so overjoyed. I think every breath just left my body because I was just so happy to win, and yeah, that's why you see me screaming. But yeah, I'm so happy my team never gave up on me, and they absolutely emptied themselves just so I could be there for the sprint, and I gave it my everything, and I'm just happy that I could make it happen for them.
And just how proud will you be tomorrow? Try and sum it up, to wear a yellow jersey in your home state.
I've never worn a yellow jersey, so it means a lot, and that's why I'm just like, I can't even talk. But yeah, and especially in my home state and where I grew up, and I mean, it's huge, and I'm just so excited because my whole family's here, and all my friends are cheering for me online, and I'm just like, I'm so overjoyed. It's just a huge stage for our team.
Yes, emotional days for Kendall Ryan there, but you know, on day 2 she's going to carry that yellow jersey into the high mountains as we head up to South Lake Tahoe. That's next. This is Katie Hall of United Healthcare, second overall in this race last year, just losing on the final day by a single second. Let's put our minds back to how it unfolded 12 months ago, and will it be different this year? Looks like Katie Hall now in the blue jersey of United Healthcare.
California is my home state, and I love these kinds of climbs, and we have a lot of these big climbs that I think you struggle to find in Europe, and especially in the Netherlands.
Here she goes, she's off.
And there's absolutely no reaction whatsoever from the Dutch woman back there.
And so I really felt like I had an advantage on my home terrain. You know, she is the best in the world, but this is my home.
Katie Hall gets the stage. The clock starts now. She'll be in yellow.
Last year I lost this race by 1 second.
This is the worst possible result for Katie.
Came down to bonus seconds in the end.
Anna van der Breggen has now reversed. She's now 1 second in the lead.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that and working on my sprint this off season. I don't want to lose this by 1 second again.
Well, that will be motivation in a deed at this year's Tour of California. Redemption is on the roads here of South Lake Tahoe for Katie Hall.
Yes, well, let's listen to some of the pre-race favourites and what they had to say about what I call l'Etape Reine.
I feel like we keep talking about last year, but I feel like also this year is a new race, and you know, anything could happen out there. There's a lot of strong contenders this year, and so I think it'll be a fight amongst more people this year. But I'm excited, just ready to race and see what happens, and I don't feel too much pressure about it, so just gonna have some fun.
A lot will play out on that long climb. It's 12K, and have to hang on and see how it shakes out over that, and then this is a really challenging finish. So I like the finish, but it's hard, and you can never predict how your body will react at altitude.
Well, a shot of Kendall Ryan here, of course, our leader after stage 1, that emotional sprint victory for her, but this certainly not a day for the sprinters, Paul.
Well, I don't think she'd be too upset with me if I said it's certainly not a day for Kendall Ryan after, because it's a completely different kind of stage today. Riders moving away from South Lake Tahoe onto Highway 89. There is a second category climb out on the course. Then there's a sprint point once we cross the Nevada border into Sheridan. But for me, this stage is all about the final 2 climbs of the day. And certainly after Daggett Summit, the nasty little climb up to the Heavenly Ski Resort.
I spoke with Megan Garnier and she said it was just relentless. There's no relief on that climb. And it's what the race comes down to as we look now at the profile. Highway 89, 6 kilometres long at 6%. Then the feed, then the sprint in Sheridan. The Daggett Summit at 12K long at 6% before the final summit finish.
So in stage 2, we're going to head to Tahoe, and Tahoe is one of my favorite stages. It's not only beautiful, but it has some factors in it. And the harder the race, the better. We start off with a lot of rollers, and it really starts to load up your legs. We're gonna go into this summit, it's Daggett Summit. It's not only over 10 kilometers long, but when you're racing at altitude and it summits up near 8,000 feet, it's a mountain to contend with. After we go up that summit, we'll descend for quite a ways, and then we'll get into town, and then we'll finish with a couple K climb up to the ski resort. And that's really a make or break. That is, the pitches and the percent get really tough, and then it ends with about a half a kilometer of just full-on sprint. But really, there are probably about I would say 6 to 10 women here that I would call legitimate climbers, but only, however, I would say 2 or 3 that I think will make it if it goes hard.
So the 84 starters now rolling away from the start of Heavenly Ski Resort, and I can tell you that after that nasty crash yesterday, Chloe Dygert was pulled from the event by the team with a suspected concussion. Let's hope for a quick recovery for that. Cooler day today as well, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, around about 6 miles an hour the wind, coming from an east-northeasterly wind. Most of these riders will know this course, and many of the teams have actually been to reconnoiter and check out the final climb of the day, because I feel that is where the overall standings of this year's Amgen's Tour for women will get sorted out.
The Kingsbury grade climb then 12k long at an average of 6%, so it's really long, but that doesn't do it quite justice. Here we're at about 6,500 to 7,000 feet of altitude, and that is going to be one of the decisive factors today. And for those riders who haven't been training, haven't acclimatized to the altitude, it could be a very difficult day indeed.
I should say it will be a very difficult day indeed. The 2 mountain peaks that these women race over today, in excess of 7,000 feet in altitude, and in anybody's book that is a rather difficult thing to attempt. I think these 2 riders who are stealing a slight advantage now are Corinne Rivera and Lily Williams, looking a little bit further down, because there are 2 Queen of the Mountains points available for the riders to summit these climbs today, and today the Queen of the Mountains title will be decided. There were no Queen of the Mountains yesterday, there's none tomorrow, so this is D-Day if you want to wear the polka dot jersey sponsored by Lexus. 5, 4, 3 and 1 points available over the summit of this climb, but we're still looking at around about 5 kilometers to go. That's going to take them pretty close to around about 15 minutes.
This, the first climb, then 6.6 kilometres long at an average of 6%, and a very interesting tactic to get Corinne Rivera up the road. Of course, the first American man or woman to win Flanders, as we just see here off the back of the group. Kendall Ryan in the yellow jersey, the sprinter, is just falling off the back of that peloton. So Corinne Rivera then up the road, as is Lily Williams, and she here is taking the maximum points in that first QOM. Corinne Rivera coming through for 4th, and Katrin Hammers of Trek Drops coming over the line to take the 3 points. An interesting breakaway then. Corinne Rivera obviously up the road for Sunweb, acting as a domestique today. Usually, I think last year certainly, she was up the road as one of the protected riders on the Kingsbury grade climb. Here, they're all in for Ruth Winder. And Lily Williams from Hagens Berman Superman, well, they are just having a really aggressive race here.
Well, as we go over the summit of the climb, we've got a long descent now down to catch the lake shore again of Lake Tahoe, and I would think that'll give a chance for Kendall Ryan here to get herself back into the main field, and as we speak, there she is, and she's going to go straight to the front of the main field to say to everybody else, hey, I'm still here, there's no need to attack anymore.
A fantastic chase there, a brilliant defence of the yellow jersey, and of course for Kendall Ryan, all eyes now will be on the green jersey and indeed that intermediate sprint at Sheridan as well. Looks as though we've got Lily Williams then out on her own. Corinne Rivera has sat up, her work done. She's got the points over the first QOM climb. She didn't manage to draw anyone out of the bunch, so she's now got to save her legs. Lily Williams then rolling through that intermediate sprint. She is a runner, a former runner from Vanderbilt University. She won the Joe Martin stage race last year. As we look now at the sprint for second, and it is Corinne Rivera well up there. 2 points for her. Emma White of Rally Cycling, interesting moves from her. She, of course, one of the contenders for that green jersey as well, and will be looking to contend with Kendall Ryan of Tibco SVB for that one.
Well, I'll tell you what, Williams had an advantage at one stage of more than 2.25 minutes, and it looks to me very much as if she's about to get pulled back into the fold.
There's going to be a great battle for the overall this year, and what excites me is I believe that it's going to be a great battle between 2 United States riders. Katie Hall walked away with the 2nd place last year, and so I can only imagine for 364 days, 365 days, she's been dreaming about this win. So Katie's hungry.
Our little domestic team was up in a fight against the Olympic champion, and I think our girls really rose to the occasion and rode really admirably, and I was really proud to be a part of this group and proud to be in that fight, fighting for the win with the best girls in the world.
And then I think that her contender, I think that the person she's going to be going up against is Megan Gagne. And a lot of us are very familiar with Megan Gagne. She's been in the peloton for years. She's had great success. And she's here with the U.S. national team. The U.S. national team has been built around Megan. They're here to work for Megan, and they couldn't be more excited.
Winning the Lake Tahoe stage is always a big challenge. You have the altitude, which we don't see so often, and I had a lot of doubt because I'd never really raced at altitude, and then to be able to perform after, again, a huge team effort to deliver me to that point for the win was great, and I just love racing in the U.S.
Yes, well, Megan Garnier we're looking at there just a few moments ago in very fine form at the moment, just coming off a great victory in the United Kingdom in the Tour of Yorkshire.
She was absolutely spectacular in that race. She won the summit finish up the Cow and Calf, which was a tough, long climb. Not as long as this, though, and certainly not at the altitude we're seeing here. This now very much a war of attrition. On the lower slopes, we aren't going to see riders firing attacks too soon. It's going to be a case of riders just dropping off the back one by one. And this group at the front will become ever more elite as we get closer to that summit, and it will become ever more selective.
This is Daggett Summit. The climb in total is 12.7 kilometers, which is around about 7 miles of climbing. The average gradient is 6%, but as you get closer to the summit of this climb, it starts to reach peaks of 13%. It's interesting to note that Team Astana are now coming to the front to do most of the pacemaking. Here you can get a chance to see Garnier. She looks pretty comfortable at the moment, but it's all going to see how she can handle the altitude, because she's moved across from racing in Europe over the early part of this year. When I spoke to Katie Hall before the start, she said, yes, I've been great on the local circuit in the United States this year. She's won 3 big stage races overall, but she's not yet come up against the international competition, and that's the only question mark she had over her overall performance today.
Exactly. She's not been racing the likes of Garnier or indeed Bols Dolman's squad or the Canyon SRAM squad with Kasia Niewiadoma either. Kasia Niewiadoma is an unknown force in this race. She has been training at altitude in Boulder for the last few weeks, so she is acclimatized to this altitude. Katie Hall, though, told me she's been training at Mammoth Lakes, and so that really will put her in good stead for today. She, of course, I think for me is the one to beat today. Carolina Rodriguez is the Astana rider on front. She's twice finished second in her national championships, but only a second-year professional, aged just 24, so this fantastic experience for her. But already we can see United Healthcare here lining things up for Katie Hall. Kasia Niewiadoma, interestingly, is sitting third wheel, but where is Megan Garnier? You've got to ask. She's somewhere toward the middle of that group, just keeping pace at the moment.
Yes, that's Katie Hall in the blue jersey, just sitting in second position, looks very fluid. She has got Niewiadoma just sitting right on her wheel in that multicolored jersey from Canyon SRAM. Looking a little bit further back, I actually can't see the American national jersey, which is on the shoulders of Megan Garnier. She's actually riding for the United States team in this event. Normally she rides for Bols Dolman, a top professional women's team on the World Tour, but they are actually racing over in Europe currently. As we go back down the field, noting in here as well, I can just spot number 131, and that's Erika Mandali from Italy, and Team B Pink looking very comfortable as well.
Menaldi is just 24 years old. She was 13th at Liège-Bastogne-Liège and 5th recently at the Tour de Yorkshire, of course, a race that Garnier won. But at the moment, it is all going United Healthcare's way. Look how confident, how comfortable and how relaxed Katie Hall is.
Well, they have a plan. I can also see the orange jersey of Rally moving up. That's the youngster from the Canadian team, Sarah Podium. She's a very good climber. You can just see everybody's trying to recover. This is another United Healthcare rider moving up here. This, in fact, is Lauren Hall, who's making a little bit of a dig. Now, that is a very interesting move. It forces the other riders to make the move, to try and get onto her slipstream, and immediately the reaction coming from the Italian rider.
Menaldi then just trying to close that gap down, but you're right, these are the tactics that teams like United Healthcare and indeed Bols Dolman's over in Europe use. They fire domestiques off the front and force other riders to chase them down. Taylor Wiles of Trek Drops just coming through here. She's a former winner of Tour of the Healer. She certainly knows how to climb, and she too has been over here training at altitude at Mammoth Lakes. So I wonder what she's got in the tank today.
Well, she looks very comfortable. This is Megan Garnier, and I'm just looking to see as we pull back whether she's in the main field or if she's been left behind. But the fact that we can't see any shadows of any of the other riders, I don't think Megan Garnier is going to be able to stay in contact with this group. And if she loses too much time over the top of this climb, it's a very fast descent going down the other side, and she won't have a chance to get herself back into contest.
As Minaldi and Brody Chapman just dig in at the front. Here comes the attack from Katie Hall. This is what we've all been waiting for. This is what today is all about. And indeed for Katie Hall, this is what the last few months of training have all been leading up to. This is where she will win or lose the GC of this Amgen Tour of California.
Well, if she casts her mind back only 12 months almost to the day, she knew that she lost this race by a single second. She has to build up time and an advantage now. Well, hailing from Oakland, California, Katie Hall on the right-hand side always has plenty of support when she races at home on home turf. And before the start, Laura caught up with her mum and dad.
How are you feeling on the day where potentially the general classification battle could be decided?
It's an exciting day, but we're a little nervous too. Katie's got a target on her back, there's no question. She did really well in this race last year and placed second. And today, everybody knows who she is, and it's going to be tough competition out there, no question.
And last year she lost by a second, which is incredibly tight margin. Did you have to pick her up a bit after that and kind of keep her going, keep the motivation up?
She picks herself up pretty much. We're very excited for her.
And how do you think she's feeling this morning?
She was a little nervous last night, but she's feeling good. She's trained well, and this is her stage. She is a climber, and she's been climbing at altitude, and I think she's going to do really well. But we're mostly concerned, we want her to be safe, and that's really what it comes down to. If she ends up on the podium, that's even better, but we really want her to be safe, and that's the real key in all these events, is making sure all the girls are safe.
Well, best of luck to Katie and to you guys watching on the sidelines today. Thank you.
Great.
Well, it's always good to have a little bit of parental support, but for Katie Hall here, it's all about doing the job of work on her own. You can see Sarah Podium moving up here. She must be casting her mind back to last year. She knows this race can be won and lost by seconds on the final day on the street circuit around Sacramento. So it's all about getting to the top of Daggett Summit. I think she will try and make a move around about 1.5 kilometers to the go, because that's where the gradient really does start to bite in a fraction, and that's the advantage for a pure climber, to be able to open up the gap. And then on the descent, it's pretty much a 6-minute descent right the way down into the valley, and it is such a fast one.
Here we go then inside the final kilometre, and in this group Rodriguez, Minaldi, Taylor Wiles, Nieuwedome, Podium and Katie Hall. Katie Hall at the moment setting the pace. The other riders will be watching her. She certainly has a target on her back coming into this race. She's won everything there is to win on American soil, Redlands, Tour of the Gila and the Joe Martin stage race. So really the pressure is all on her. Forget last year, this year as well. She set herself up to be the key rider here in this group, and indeed we're going to look now as the attacks begin to fly. Already Minaldi, Rodriguez already distanced to Nieuwedome, also toward the back. Taylor Wiles is the only one able to stick with Hall's pace at the moment.
Well, for me, this is not really an attack. She's just turning up the screws a little bit more, and that pressure and tempo that she's putting on is asphyxiating the other riders with her. You can see that Taylor Wiles in second position, the grimace all over her face. She knows she's just got to hang on a little bit more to the back wheel of Katie Hall. Yes, Katie Hall has been so dominant this year on the American circuit, but I think she would throw all of that out of the window if she could get herself a victory here, just to wipe away the memories of losing this race last year by a single second. A glance over her shoulder there just to see what sort of damage she's doing. Well, I can tell her, you've only got Taylor Wiles in your slipstream, and we're not far away from cresting Daggett Summit.
And look at the difference in body language here. Katie Hall is rock steady. Her shoulders are still. She looks in control. Just 500 meters to go to the summit. Taylor Wiles, though, rocking and rolling out the saddle. She's grimacing. She's putting absolutely everything into this climb. And indeed, you can almost feel the pain watching her, as you can the chasers as well. Look at the damage that this surge of pace from Hall and Wiles is doing to the back of the field. Nieuwedome, Minaldi, Rodriguez, Podium, all they can do is just hang on here and hope for the descent and getting over the crest of that summit.
Well, there's only one thing to do. We're around about a minute from cresting the top of this climb with these riders, but they've got to just try and make sure they get over the top of the climb, maybe get together as a group and collaborate on the descent down towards South Lake Tahoe, and then again the organisers have thrown another nasty climb at them, and I think that's where the foundations will be laid for somebody trying to win the stage. That's Sarah Podium in first place there. She will be riding into her jersey as the best young rider in this competition. She's only 22 years of age. Look at the valley below. This really is a majestic stage that the riders are facing up to here this afternoon. But for these riders we're looking at now, they're very much on the defensive. They're in survival mode, just waiting and wishing that this climb would end.
It's one of the most beautiful, most picturesque settings for a bike race I think I've ever seen. But these riders right now will not be looking at the views. They will be looking down at their stems and just hoping and praying that this climb will be over soon. As we come back to the front of the field, Katie Hall still very much in control, and Taylor Wiles doing absolutely everything she can to try and stick on this pace being set at the moment by Hall, trying to stay in the wheel and trying to limit her losses before that descent, and then of course that 1.7 climb, the final climb of the day, back up to the Heavenly Ski Resort at South Lake Tahoe.
Just looking at the body language there, yes, I tell you one thing, Taylor Wiles is pulling herself inside out. You know, it's funny you see the cookie on the side of the road, because her nickname, by the way, is the Cookie Monster. She says, I love cookies. I need plenty of energy and get plenty of energy out of that. She's also had a very heavy season so far this year. The rider sitting at the back there, number 71. The first time I saw her this year was as far back as January in the Santos Tour Down Under for women. And it is so amazing in this day and age. Nearly all of the major bike races that I go to around the world, there's an associated women's race coming alongside with it.
By her own admission, she hasn't had the best spring either. She told me that while she's not a one-day classic specialist, she hasn't been overjoyed with her performances so far. So she's come back to America. She's been at altitude, and indeed here it shows that the acclimatization and that training has worked as they roll over the summit. Katie Hall taking the maximum points in that QOM climb, and here the fight for third is on. It looks like Podium will just get there in front of Rodriguez of Astana. She does, the rally cycling rider, just edging her out there. Your top three, Hall, Wiles and Podium, in that QOM climb as we now begin the short, sharp descent back down before our final climb. Katie Hall at the moment, well, down on the top tube, and off she goes.
Yeah, she's getting down into that very precarious tuck position, trying to really adopt the position of a ski racer. Please do not try and do this at home. These riders are racing on closed roads. There is no traffic coming up towards them. But on this descent, with those kind of positions, you will be attaining speeds in excess of 50 miles an hour. This is not a technical descent. It's a very fast descent. We now have a situation with two leaders charging down towards the finishing line and looking to see Lake Tahoe on the horizon. Well, just one climb left to go towards the end of stage two. These are the two leaders. Taylor Wiles in first position, Katie Hall in the blue jersey of United Healthcare, collaborating perfectly. They both know what's in store, and I tell you what, when you turn off this road and head up towards this final climb of the day, it's as if somebody has put a wall right in front of your face. The advantage is around about 30 seconds over the chasers, and now Katie Hall starts to make the move, and Taylor Wiles is in a spot of bother now. You can see the first daylight appearing between these two riders, and if we could just peer around a little bit to the right hand side, I tell you, this climb is excruciating.
I think Katie Hall was probably glad of having Taylor Wiles for company to ensure that they can just get a big enough gap away from the chasers, who have obviously grouped together in a group of four. But now she's put the hammer down and said, that's it. She rounds this corner here. You begin to see, Paul, as you said, just how steep some of these gradients are. Look at the distance she's already put in to Taylor Wiles. Wiles doing absolutely everything she can. But really, as the gradients ramp up and Katie Hall begins to make her way up to the Heavenly Ski Resort here in South Lake Tahoe, it is all about this United Healthcare pro cycling rider. The last few months have all been about this moment right here.
Well, I'm just looking at a pedaling style here and casting my mind back to last year. This looks like there's a move for third place rider on the road, and this is New Adoma there, number 51. She's trying to ride herself into a podium position. To finish my thought, I'm just thinking back to Katie Hall last year. 1 kilometre to go to the Queen of the Mountains point as well. Big points available at the top of this climb. She just looks so much more fluid and more comfortable on the machine than she did 12 months previously.
She's pedaling so well, isn't she? It almost looks effortless, and that's what the very best in the world are able to do, is make it seem as though it's just a Sunday stroll. It's just a Sunday social for coffee and cake, and that's what Katie Hall is doing right now at one of the toughest finishes in women's pro cycling. And look how fluid, how calm she looks on this climb as well.
Well, what she's trying to do now is get as much time as possible over everybody else. She knows this is the only point left in this race today where you can get time in your overall classification. That's what she wants to do. I'm sure she's not thinking about the 1 second from last year. She's concentrating on getting everything out. Currently, we've got 2 California ladies sitting in 1st and 2nd position on the road, because although Taylor Wiles actually grew up in Utah, she's nowadays a resident of Fairfax, California. But she's not even concerned about that right now. What she's trying to do, just a little bit further back, is consolidate her 2nd position. I'm sure she'll be looking over her shoulders and just trying to eyeball the distance between herself and Katie Nieuwedoma, who is in 3rd place currently on the road. But really, for me now, it's all about Katie Hall. That's the first time she's actually looked back, and that's a real professional thing to do, just to have a quick look and a check. She will be getting information over the race radio from her team manager in the car behind, who'll be explaining just how the race is unfolding. But at the end of the day, it's always down to the bike rider to put in the effort.
And I'm sure Rachel Hederman in the car behind will be saying it's all about the time gap now. You've got to go to the line. It's a time trial, a solo effort now. As we look back on 2nd place, and indeed again that difference in body language. These two, of course, former teammates as well, so they know each other very, very well indeed. But here it's all about Katie Hall. This is her day. Once again, last year she won this stage with the Kingsbury Grey climb. She's doing it again this year in 2018, Paul.
Yes, and she's also riding herself into the lead in the Queen of the Mountains competition, and she will ride flat out all the way up to the finishing line. Yes, she did win this race last year, but she didn't have enough time in the bank when it came down to the final circuit. Katie Hall, who has been so dominant on the US circuit so far this season, is about to put all of the internationals to shame, because she crosses the line there, and you note she only saluted after she'd crossed the line, because it's a clock on the top of the gantry there, which is she will be looking at very shortly. Now, coming up now, you've got Taylor Wiles. What's her time deficit going to be? If it's more than the 10-second time margin, it's going to be a very comfortable position for Katie Hall, because we have time bonuses available on the finishing line. Taylor Wiles all over her machine. She's getting every last little bit of energy out.
It looks over 20 seconds to me, that time gap indeed to Taylor Wiles. And we look back now, of course, and wait for that battle for 3rd place, of course, and whichever rider comes over the line will be moving into 3rd in GC. Erica Manaldi then, a B Pink, is leading out Kasia Nieuwedoma. Nieuwedoma, of course, winner of the Women's Tour from last year. She won Trofeo Binder this year for Canyon SRAM. She's incredibly happy in her new team and riding so well because of it. And right now, she has the power, the strength and the endurance to out-sprint Manaldi to the line. Manaldi looks over her shoulder and just says, right, I'll have to be content with 4th place here. 3rd for Kasia Nieuwedoma. A brilliant ride from the Polish rider.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, finally, a wry smile appearing on the face of Katie Hall. And just looking back at those gaps and waiting for the final confirmation. But those time gaps are absolutely huge.
She really has done it in style this year. Of course, hailing from Berkeley University, where she was studying molecular toxicology, so a very, very bright individual as well. And I think Katie Hall can now begin to feel that little bit of relief, all of the pressure building into this one. She can now smile. I think a big weight's been lifted off her shoulders. Moving into tomorrow's stage with a big enough time gap, all she needs to do is finish safely in that bunch.
Get a chance to see just how difficult it was for Taylor Wiles to hang on to 2nd place, and plenty of stragglers starting to come through,
including Megan Garnier. Well, it is a bad day to have a bad day, and Megan Garnier and Ruth Winder next to her have had just that. Lauren Hall, though, teammate, of course, of Katie Hall, very much enjoying the moment.
Here's Garnier. You know, when you've been racing in Europe for the majority of the season, I can tell you, when you come to these altitudes, you know, 7,000 feet we've been over twice, it is a very difficult thing to ask. There is confirmation of the time gap, so Katie Hall wins the stage 25 seconds back to Taylor Wiles and more than a minute back to Nieuwedome. And in the overall classification, she leads this race by 29 seconds now. Nieuwedome in third place at 1:07, Magnaldi in fourth at 1:12, Brody Chapman in fifth at 1:16. These time gaps are looking rather large. Yes, and looking back to the erstwhile pre-race favourite Megan Gagne, more than 3.5 minutes back. And just after the finish, Laura Winter caught up with Katie Hall.
Well, very happy now to be joined by Katie Hall of United Healthcare Pro Cycling, who with a stunning attack on the final summit climb up to the Heavenly Ski Resort here has taken the lead, the overall GC lead in the Amgen Tour of California. Katie, talk me through that final climb. That's where you attacked, wasn't it?
Yep, I attacked once on Kingsbury and then again on the final climb. I was really happy to go over the top of Kingsbury with Taylor, who used to be my teammate, who I just know is super good on that kind of descent and that kind of flat. And so it was really good to have her. And then, just attack in the end for myself, and
How much confidence did you have in that attack, in that moment? Did you know this is it?
I thought, pretty good, because I had a bit of a head start on most of the field, and Taylor had just taken a pole when I attacked, so I figured we would probably go 1-2.
And you've got a pretty substantial lead now in the GC.
Better than 1 second, better than 4 seconds or whatever it was after this stage last year. And I also feel a little bit better because the next people in GC are outside of sprint bonus seconds and also are not really sprinters. So I feel like we're in a pretty good spot.
So the game plan tomorrow then for you?
Encourage all the sprinters to have a bunch finish.
Well, just looking down towards the finishing line now as we've got Katie Hall on the podium. Her teammates are pretty happy with their performance.
That's amazing to see, isn't it? Look how much it means to Katie Hall as well, standing there top step of the podium and leader of the Amgen Tour of California women's race.
Just relax and embrace this moment. We're in a pretty awesome position. We've got a super strong team, and we're ready to go out there and fight and keep that jersey, work hard, support each other, and just have fun. Yeah.
Well, it's all going to be about having a little bit of enjoyment on the final day of racing around Sacramento. But, you know, to win a race like this, you have to be piloted from the team car behind. We were very lucky to get inside the team car of Rachel Hederman, the team manager.
She's climbing really well. We've been up here training. She's done the climb a few times, so she knows it really well. If everything plays out as it should, then she's got a really good chance of winning. It's just that it's bike racing and you never quite know what's going to happen. You're about 50 yards too far back. Rob, you need to be up there.
I'm right in this leading group for United Healthcare #1 Hall.
How's she looking?
She's pushing it. Taylor, Ruth, Kasia.
Katie, you have 4 chasers behind her, 30 seconds. 30 seconds to 4 chasers. Use your head, you're smart, the bike racing and Taylor. Okay, now I'm nervous. Come on, Katie, great job. All the way to the line now, Katie, come on.
You want to go?
Yeah, go. Thank you. Come on, Katie, this is what all this work's been about. Come on, all the way. You need as much time as you can get. Come on, Katie, all the way to the finish, all the way to the finish line.
Well done, ladies.
She had just so much pressure coming in because, like, she's won everything else so far this year. So to be able to like handle that pressure and still come up with it, it's like I think this is way more special than last year's. I mean, last year was amazing, but to be able to take all the pressure, it's like she's grown so much as a rider over the last few years.
And we have to say a very big thank you to the Vox Women team for taking us right inside that team car.
We are so proud of that content we created, and a huge thank you to United Healthcare and Rachel Hederman for giving us such access to Katie Hall's incredible win. Katie, let's reflect on yesterday. How are you feeling a few hours on after that epic Stage 2 win?
I feel good. I feel better about my gap this year than last year, and better about the competition, and just excited to race my bike. And it's a bit windy out here, but we're working for a bunch finish today, so should be good.
Well, Katie Hall is now just hours away from an overall victory, but she also leads in the green jersey Visit California points competition. She's on the same points as Kendall Ryan. Now today will be a day for the sprinters.
Corinne, another chance for you today. What is the Team Sunweb game plan?
Yeah, we're here to go for the win. We had some mistakes the first day, and we're here to correct those and give it our best shot today.
Kendall, one bunch sprint from one so far. How are you and, of course, Team TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank going to replicate that today?
Today I'm pretty tired. I think everyone is. Yesterday was super rough around Lake Tahoe, and everyone knew it was definitely going to be losing yellow, but very excited to be wearing the green jersey today. I like green too, so we're gonna go for those sprints, and it's a good way to also set up and kind of feel out the sprint for the finish too. So we're gonna give it a go today.
Well, it should be a very important day for the sprinters, and in fact this circuit is tailor-made for the sprinters. It's planned flat in the shadow of the state capitol, but it will be a very important day today for the battle for the green jersey.
It will indeed. You say pan flat, there are 6 corners to negotiate, so it is pretty technical. We're hoping for a nice, safe, clean race. That finishing straight as well is pretty long, so the timing of the sprint is crucial. Worth noting, of course, in that battle for the green jersey as well, it is all about the 15th lap. That is where those points can be won and lost in this 70 kilometres or 43.5 mile circuit race. There you see the 15th crossing intermediate sprint. It's going to be a big day for the sprinters.
So Stage 3, it's what every cyclist dreams of. You're downtown Sacramento, you have thousands of fans out there cheering for you. In fact, the fans are so loud that sometimes as a rider, you don't even hear yourself breathe. And so it's that extra motivation, and it really picks up that race. It picks up the speed, it picks up the intensity. You're gonna see teams fly off the front, teams that you might not have even heard of before. But remember, everyone has come here to win something, to take something home. We're here, we're representing a women's world tour. It's the top level category race for women across the world, and it's here in the United States.
So as they all get lined up, having listened to the national anthem, 71 degrees Fahrenheit, there's a little start there, there's a little acceleration coming from Team Rally, and I wonder if she's forgotten that, in fact, let's not forget the first lap is neutralized.
Nice to see there. Even the most established, best bike riders in the world still make a few rookie errors. That is lovely to see from Erica Alla.
Well, I tell you what, I probably would have done the same thing myself, because if you can catch everybody unawares, that's what can happen. No change is going to see in the Queen of the Mountains competition. Katie Hall will run away with that competition for the second year in a row. 11 points, beats 9. But very rapid start. We're riding around here in excess of 42 kilometers an hour. That's about 27 miles an hour. A chance there to see just how they are holding it together. But as you mentioned, it's going to be very important when we get to the sprint point, because in fact Katie Hall and Kendall Ryan are in exactly the same number of points at the start of today.
We've just seen a few riders off the front as well. Brenda Satoya of the Swap It team. She was 5th in the youth classification at Tour of the Gila, just 21 years old. She's off the front at the moment, and she's joined, interestingly, by a TIBCO SVB rider, and that is Shannon Millseed wearing the Australian national jersey. A neo-pro as well. She's only just joined the team of TIBCO. She was the overall leader in the Australian Road Series, and here you can see she's going for this intermediate sprint, I'd imagine, to protect protect Kendall Ryan.
Well, she wants to take away as many sprints as she can. She would not have sprinted if she'd been in the main field, but here she's going to try and take maximum points. And yes, that was a bit of a surprise in Australia in January when she leapt out of the pack to get herself the victory there, ahead of all of the big Australian international teams. And certainly she wears the green and gold with pride. She gets maximum points, but just look there, just coming across the line for third place, Kendall Ryan picks up a single point. Now that will put her currently into the lead in that competition, but it'll all go down to the big points on the finish line.
And she was flagged there by Ingrid Drexler as well, the Mexican national champion. So Tibco SVB really going all out here to keep that green jersey within the Tibco SVB team. And there you can see the points classifications at the moment. Kendall Ryan leading the way in that one.
Yes, as we go into the final 15 minutes of this race, so they're all trying to get off the front and try and outfox the sprinters. But will they survive? Looking down there on Sacramento, the state capital in the distance, and I can tell you we're at the confluence of the American River and the Sacramento River. But when you're a professional athlete, it's so important to have stability, especially when your life is running around the world. Listen to this.
Taylor is a wonderful man. He makes me smile in like a 1 second, so I feel like, you know, once you can laugh all the time and just be purely happy without like forcing yourself or without thinking or be occupied with different thoughts in your mind, just like purely happy, then everything comes so easily. Binda was really wonderful and great race, and not because of the fact that I won it, but the way how we were racing with my team. Just, you know, to play the race in our way. Yeah, at the end I could save all my energy and just like did this final attack, which led me to the victory. And yeah, it was a huge success personally for me and for entire team. I've never ever raced here, so I have no idea what's going to happen. I just want to stay open and like, you know, free mind to see what happens and like just enjoy, pure enjoy from racing and from riding here.
Yes, Kazia, of course, in a relationship with Taylor Phinney, who incidentally, his mother, the first American to win an Olympic gold medal.
Stop.
First woman. And American.
Yeah.
That's lovely to hear, isn't it? Happiness truly does translate to more watts out on the road. Of course, Kaja Nieuwedoma with Taylor Phinney, whose mother, the first woman to win Olympic gold in cycling.
And what a family that was as well, because Taylor Phinney's dad was the first American to win a road stage in the Tour de France in Liévin when he was racing for the 711 squad. I have to say, that really is an American cycling dynasty.
We can see here Santoya then just being swept up and swallowed back into the bunch as the pace goes up a notch here as they're all gunning for that final sprint. We've got just over 2 laps to go here.
Yes, there are actually 2 races going on in one today, because you've got the race for the stage victory and of course the race for the green jersey points competition, Visit California. And of course Katie Hall, she is clocking off these laps one by one, just waiting to be crowned as the queen of the Amgen Tour of California.
We can see here Jessica Serra then, just her 4th year as a pro. She's off the front at the moment. She's a chef actually in her spare time, so very, very keyed in and tuned in to the nutrition required for these kind of races. United Healthcare so far have done an absolutely tremendous job of shepherding Katie Hall, and you can see at the back there Corinne Rivera staying out of trouble as well.
Well, I would have thought she was a little bit too far back with around about 2.5 laps to go. I certainly wouldn't want to be there, but she was surrounded by all of her teammates. She's going to try and come to the front with Team Sunweb and line herself up inside of the final lap. But as you said earlier on, this sprinting lane is such a long charge down towards the line. If you go out too early, you can fade inside of the last 100 meters. There's not much of an advantage there, and the main field, under the impetus of Team USA, just pulling them all back together, all starting to get just a little bit more nervous now as we come into the final few miles of this year's Amgen Tour. Who is going to win the final stage?
Team Sunweb then still at the back, and I think that's partly to do with their feedback from stage one, where they unleashed their rider, Corinne Rivera, a little bit too early, and she had her nose out in the wind. But now we can see a couple of riders off the front here, one of which is a Team Sunweb rider.
Yeah, but Team USA have got their cyclocross champion up at the front here, because that's Katie Compton. Decided she wanted to come along and actually try racing on the road. And if you can ride cyclocross, which is that strange sport in the winter where you ride a bicycle across hills and fields, you can transfer the power that she's got to riding well in a race like this.
She's a 14 times national champion as well, so that is tremendous to see her out in front. Joining her is Pernille Mattisson, just 20 years old and already a double under-23 European champion in both the road race and the time trial. She did the double last year, so that is a pretty strong breakaway. But of course for Sunweb, it gives them the chance to relax and makes other teams chase them down.
Yeah, you can see the Sunweb team just on the far side in the black and white jerseys. That's Corinne Rivera, number 3 in the line. They are nursing her around here, shepherding, keeping her away from any crashes. There was a nasty crash on the opening day, but it's all about making sure that you get the lead-out train sorted. And I do think that, in fact, at Team Sunweb, they've got one of their younger teams here, and I'm not quite sure that they've got the full experience and firepower of their full World Tour team to look after Corinne Rivera. We'll find out in a few moments' time.
And of course, Katie Compton off front for USA Cycling for the Schneider sisters. Skylar finishing in the top 10 on stage 1, but now we are coming towards that final bunch sprint here for stage 3.
Now coming to the end of 187 miles of racing spread over 3 days here in the state of California. You're looking down there on the state capitol, and we're now coming down to the final lap of the race. This time across the line, they should hear the bell indicating 1 lap to go, but it's all now a question of holding position at the front end of the peloton.
And once again, we're seeing Hagens Berman Supermint, for me, very much the most aggressive, most courageous team of this race on the front. Indeed, they know that commentators will be talking about them. They're the most visible team of the race in breakaways and indeed off the front. Now, though, we begin to see Team Sunweb taking control with 1 lap to go. You've got to question again, though, if they're there too early.
Well, the orange jerseys are in there for Emma White of Team Rally. You've got 2 sprinters, Alexis Ryan and Kendall Ryan, the winner of the opening stage. And of course, everybody wondering, can Corinne Rivera of Sunweb open up her account here at the Amgen Tour today? The speed is high. Look at the gaps at the back of the main field starting to appear between all of these riders. At the front, it's a question of holding your position, not going anywhere near the brakes. You can see the organisation on the right-hand side. 1, 2, 3, 4 riders from Team Sunweb. For the moment, they're in a perfect position as they start to take these sweeping bends.
And indeed, Sunweb on front as well, really trying to drive this effort. Canyon SRAM beginning to get organised too. They've got Alexis Ryan. She's had a real breakthrough spring. She finished 2nd at Ronde van Drenthe and she won Drenthe Actor as well. So really for her, this is another chance to step onto a World Tour podium.
Well, pretty much now the race overall is in the bag for Katie Hall. She's gone inside of the 3 kilometre mark. If you have an accident or an incident inside of that point, you get the same time as the winner of the group that you were with. So for Katie Hall, it's pretty much done and dusted, but now everybody is looking for the final glory. This is Canyon SRAM on the front, keeping the tempo nice and high. Again, there is the Maxis 1 kilometre to go banner, and they're all lining up. There's very shortly going to be a right-hand sweeping bend, a left-hand sweeping bend, I should say, and now they're into the finishing straight. It's a long finishing straight, around about 800 metres.
And the temptation will be to go early. You can see the finish line, but they have got to be patient here. Team Sunweb shepherding Corinne Rivera up. I've also caught sight of Arlena Sierra, of course, the Cuban national champion, Pan-American champion as well. She's got a couple of top 5 so far in the World Tour, but not yet a victory this year. So for her, this will be very important. She hasn't got a team with much firepower here in terms of a lead out, though, so she's going to have to be clever with how she surfs these wheels as they approach the finish line here in Sacramento. It's Sunweb on the front.
Sunweb in the black and white jerseys trying to get the ideal lead out. They've run out of a little bit of power there. Over on the right hand side, Corinne Rivera is not on the wheel of her teammate. She's locked right up against the barriers. Still, Canyon SRAM very much in control. Wiggle getting into the jersey there with the black jerseys on. right through the middle. The sprint is starting to open up. Canyon SRAM. Corinne Rivera is boxed in a fraction on the far right-hand side there in the black and white jersey. It looks like it is, in fact, Sierra, who's up there into second place. That's the Astana rider. She hails from Cuba. She's going to take the center of the road now, and as she crosses the line, it's going to be a victory for Cuba. It'll be a victory for Astana, and that was a well-timed sprint. And in fact, once again, Corinne Rivera was actually boxed in the wrong position. Let's have a look at it one more time.
So victory went then to Arlena Sierra. It was actually Alexis Ryan of Canyon SRAM who led that one out, and it was very close over the line between her, Corinne Rivera, and Emma White in orange, of course. Watch out for her, because that is the battle for the green jersey. Kendall Ryan is well back. She may have had a mechanical or something. She is nowhere near the front of this race here. Arlena Sierra takes the win. Alexis Ryan takes second, and I believe it's Emma White who takes third. Here we have an onboard camera with Alexis Ryan.
Yeah, just saw the moment there when Sierra started her sprint. There is Corinne Rivera in the black and white. It just goes to show how fast they're actually going in the finishing straight, in excess probably of about 35 to 40 miles an hour.
Nettie Edmondson of Wiggle High Five up there as well, but not on the podium as she was on stage one. And look now how happy Astana is.
Yes, you know, it's not very often you get a chance to see the Cuban national champion's jersey. Well, there it is. She's also the Cuban national champion in the individual time trial as well. But that is great joy for Team Astana on the final day. And let's not forget, the overall winner and her team, Katie Hall, resplendent in the yellow jersey of leadership.
And they did an incredible job to shepherd Katie Hall to safety and keep her up in the group. But of course, the spoils for stage 3 go to Arlena Sierra.
Yes, but in third place on the right-hand side, in my counting, that should give Emma White the overall victory in the Visit California green jersey competition. This is the overall classification, though. After second overall last year, Katie Hall now will run out the overall winner by 29 seconds from Taylor Wiles. Let's hear from her.
Katie, job done for you today. We saw United Healthcare Pro Cycling patrolling the bunch, keeping the attacks locked in. How do you feel right now as winner of the 2018 Amgen Tour of California women's race?
It feels so good, especially after losing this race last year by 1 second. To be able to, defend my lead, come away with a win, just like really rely on my teammates to help me out today. Feels so good. And we got Team GC too, so we get to go up there as a team, all 6 of us, and it's just perfect, a perfect day.
And a word on your team as well. A word on your team as well, because today they just had you marshalled in line. You sat third wheel pretty all day. How impressive have they been for you this week?
This is what they've done all year for me, is just look out for me, make up for sort of my weaknesses, which can be keeping in the front of the bunch on a flat, hard, fast race like today. And so, I couldn't do it without them. I'm so grateful.
And parents, family, friends, all here watching. What was it like racing in the yellow with that going on around you?
It was so fun. I heard my name all the way around the course today on every lap, and that was just the coolest thing. Won't happen at another race all year, so that was just really, really cool.
Katie, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Yes, well, here is confirmation of probably the only jersey that Katie Hall won't run away with today. Emma White getting the victory there for Team Rally. 22 points, plays at 19 of Alexis Ryan. And of course, if you win the Amgen Tour of California for women, you get a very smart car.
And look how happy Katie Hall looks. That is the result of months of hard work, and I'd imagine a few demons from last year as well, losing by just a second. Now she comes home with Alexis and that yellow jersey.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this year's Amgen Tour of California for women. On behalf of Laura Winter, I'm Paul Sherwin saying we hope you'll come back next year.